Decisions, whether big or small, shape the course of our lives in profound ways. But what really goes on behind the scenes when we make a choice? Every decision represents a fork in the road of life. This video explores the key factors influencing our decision-making processes. We'll examine 5 main forces that guide our choices. Our minds are filled with hidden traps known as cognitive biases. These mental shortcuts can lead us astray when making important decisions. Throughout this video series, we'll uncover the cognitive, emotional, social, economic, and ethical forces at play, and how they all come together to guide our choices. Join us as we navigate the complex labyrinth of how we make decisions and discover insights that can help improve your own decision-making process. Decision-making begins with complex cognitive processes in our brain. Our nervous system forms an intricate network that processes information and influences our choices. The cognitive decision process follows a series of steps. First, our senses gather information from our environment. Then, our brain retrieves relevant memories and past experiences. Next, we assess the values and emotions associated with each option. We compare alternatives based on predicted outcomes. Finally, we select a choice that aligns with our goals and values. Several key brain regions are involved in making decisions. The prefrontal cortex handles complex planning and executive functions. The amygdala processes emotional responses that influence our choices. The hippocampus accesses memories that inform our decisions. The striatum evaluates rewards and helps us seek positive outcomes. Several key factors influence our cognitive processes during decision-making. These factors interact with each other, creating a complex web that shapes how we process information and make choices. Understanding these cognitive processes helps us recognize patterns in our decision-making and improve our choices over time. Cognitive biases are systematic errors in thinking that affect our decisions and judgments. These mental shortcuts help us process information quickly, but can lead us astray. First, let's examine confirmation bias. This is our tendency to favor information that confirms our existing beliefs while giving less attention to information that contradicts them. Notice how in this diagram, people overvalue information that supports their beliefs and undervalue contradicting evidence. Next is the availability heuristic. This occurs when we overestimate the likelihood of events that come readily to mind. For example, people often fear flying more than driving, even though statistics show driving is far more dangerous. Recent news of plane crashes or shark attacks makes these rare events seem more common than they are. The anchoring bias occurs when we rely too heavily on the first piece of information we receive. In this example, people asked about the last 2 digits of their Social Security number before stating how much they would pay for wine were influenced by those initial numbers. The person with higher digits was willing to pay significantly more, even though the numbers were completely unrelated to the wine's value. Social proof bias is our tendency to look to others for guidance on how to behave. Marketers often exploit this by highlighting how many people use their products. These advertisements for an eco-friendly clothing brand emphasize community values and social norms to influence purchasing decisions. There are dozens of cognitive biases that can affect our thinking. Some additional examples include the planning fallacy, where we underestimate how long tasks will take, and the base rate fallacy, where we ignore general statistical information in favor of specific cases. Recognizing these biases in our own thinking is the first step toward making more rational decisions. Now that we understand these hidden traps in our thinking, we can explore how emotions influence our decision-making process. Emotions play a powerful role in our decision-making process. Our decisions are influenced by both rational data and emotional responses. The brain processes emotions through specialized structures like the amygdala, which is particularly responsive to threats and fear. We experience a wide spectrum of emotions that can influence our decisions in different ways. Positive emotions like happiness enhance creativity and open mindedness, improving our problem solving abilities. Negative emotions like fear or anger can narrow our focus and lead to impulsive, defensive reactions. A common example of emotional decision making is the endowment effect, where we value things more simply because we own them. When selling an item, we often demand a higher price than what we would be willing to pay for the same item due to our emotional attachment. To make better decisions, we can use emotion regulation strategies to manage our feelings. These techniques include naming emotions, identifying triggers, mindfulness, and talking through feelings, all of which help us make more balanced decisions. Emotions can lead to specific cognitive biases that affect our decision making process. To summarize what we've learned about emotional influences on decision making, emotions are integral to how we make decisions. The amygdala processes our emotional responses. Positive and negative emotions affect our decisions differently, and emotion regulation strategies can significantly improve the quality of our decisions. Social influences are powerful forces that shape our decision-making processes. As inherently social beings, the people around us, from family and friends to colleagues and strangers, significantly impact our choices, often without our awareness. Peer pressure and groupthink are powerful social forces. When surrounded by others with strong opinions, we often suppress our own thoughts and conform to the group. This happens because we fear social rejection and seek acceptance from our peers. For example, research has consistently shown that adolescents are significantly more likely to engage in risky behaviors when observed by their peers. This demonstrates how social pressure can override rational decision-making processes. Cultural influences significantly impact our decision-making processes. Every culture has its own set of values, norms, and beliefs that guide behavior. For instance, collectivist cultures emphasize group harmony and decisions that benefit the community, while individualist cultures prioritize personal autonomy and self-determination. Research indicates that gender can influence decision-making processes. These differences aren't innate, but largely result from socialization and cultural expectations. For example, studies show variations in aggression expression between males and females, with males typically displaying more physical aggression, while females may express aggression through indirect means. Socioeconomic status, including income, education, and access to resources, profoundly affects decision making. People with limited resources often face a scarcity mindset that can lead to different decision strategies. Financial constraints may force short term thinking over long term planning, while educational access influences information processing capabilities. Being aware of social influences is the first step toward making more independent and authentic decisions. To counter these powerful forces, seek diverse perspectives, recognize when social pressure is affecting your judgment, and practice making decisions based on your own values and beliefs. By understanding social dynamics, you can navigate these influences more effectively. Economic factors play a crucial role in shaping our decisions, from personal finances to corporate strategies. Resources, business objectives, and economic conditions all influence how individuals and organizations make decisions. Economic factors are interconnected and include elements like inflation, recession, economic growth, and employment levels. These factors create the economic environment that shapes our decisions. One key economic factor is resource constraints. Every decision involves allocating limited resources like time, money, and personnel. Limited budgets force prioritization, time constraints impact project scope, and personnel availability affects timelines. These resource constraints significantly shape the decisions organizations make. Economic factors influence both personal and business decisions, but in different ways. For individuals, economic factors affect personal finance decisions like savings, investments, and spending. For businesses, economic factors guide decisions about capabilities, resources, and growth strategies. Strategic economic decision-making often involves analyzing potential returns against investments. Decision trees help visualize different economic outcomes based on resource allocation choices. Expected value calculations guide investment decisions, while risk assessment based on probability helps evaluate options. Different investment levels yield varied potential returns, creating a complex decision landscape. Broader economic conditions create the environment in which all decisions are made. These external factors can significantly impact the outcomes of economic decisions. Inflation reduces purchasing power, affecting both personal and business spending decisions. Recessions typically create risk aversion, while periods of economic growth encourage expansion and investment. To summarize, economic factors profoundly influence decision-making. Resource constraints shape decision parameters, business objectives determine economic priorities, external economic conditions create the decision context, and strategic analysis improves economic decision outcomes. Ethical considerations form a crucial part of the decision-making process. Ethical decision-making follows a structured framework that helps us navigate complex moral dilemmas. When making ethical decisions, we should be guided by 4 core principles. Autonomy is about respecting individuals' right to make their own decisions. Beneficence means taking actions that benefit others. Non-maleficence is the principle of avoiding harm. And justice ensures fair treatment and distribution of benefits and burdens. Ethical decision-making requires special consideration for vulnerable populations. Our choices must account for the impact on those with less power or voice in society. Ethical dilemmas arise when core values and principles come into conflict. Decision-makers often face tensions between short-term profits and long-term sustainability, or between individual freedoms and collective well-being. Ethical decisions have far-reaching impacts on organizations and society. Making ethical choices builds trust with stakeholders, enhances reputation, prevents harm, and creates long-term value. Despite the importance of ethics, the Ethics and Compliance Initiative reports that 47% of employees witnessed ethical misconduct in their workplaces in 2022. Ethical decisions are essential for creating a sustainable future. This means considering how our choices today will affect future generations and the planet. To make ethical decisions consistently, follow a structured framework. Start by identifying the ethical issue. Consider all stakeholders. Evaluate alternative actions. Consult ethical principles. Make and implement your decision. Then reflect and learn from the outcome. Remember, ethical considerations are essential for responsible decision-making and creating positive impact. Real-world examples show how different factors influence decision-making in organizations and businesses. Let's examine Netflix's pivotal decision to transition from DVD rentals to streaming. This fundamental shift in business model demonstrates strategic decision-making that transformed an entire industry. Their timeline shows several critical decision points. In 2007, they launched streaming when bandwidth limitations made it risky. By 2011, they separated DVD and streaming services despite customer pushback. These decisions were influenced by cognitive recognition of technology trends, economic calculations of future value, and understanding of shifting social behaviors. American Express demonstrates how data-driven decision-making can transform financial services. They integrated predictive analytics into their credit risk assessment processes. By analyzing transaction data, social media activity, and other non-traditional data sources, they've created a more comprehensive risk assessment model. This approach reduced default rates by approximately 20%, improved customer approval times, and allowed them to approve more qualified applicants who might have been rejected under traditional models. The benefits of data-driven decision-making extend beyond risk assessment. Organizations using these approaches see improved outcomes, better planning, increased support for initiatives, and more equitable decisions. Organizations that make consistently good decisions often follow structured processes. This 7-step approach provides a framework that can be applied across industries. The process begins with gathering information and options, then systematically works through defining criteria, evaluating options, and making a selection. Implementation planning and result evaluation complete the cycle, allowing for continuous improvement in decision quality. Not all organizational decisions lead to positive outcomes. Let's examine cases where decision failures led to significant ethical crises. In one case, an energy company ignored multiple safety warnings, resulting in a massive environmental disaster with billions in damages and cleanup costs. A major tech firm faced a data privacy scandal that led to a $5 billion fine and a 20% drop in stock value. An automotive manufacturer's decision to manipulate emissions testing resulted in massive recalls and long-term damage to consumer trust. Organizations can prepare for crisis situations with structured response frameworks. This crisis-ready flowchart provides guidance on how to respond to negative issues, determining whether to monitor, respond, or escalate to a full crisis team. Many of the most successful decisions in organizations come from collaborative processes. When teams bring diverse perspectives together, they often make better choices. Toyota's approach to production decisions involves cross-functional teams that examine issues from multiple angles. This collaborative approach helps reduce blind spots in decision-making, increases buy-in for implementation, and improves risk assessment through diverse perspectives. From these real-world examples, we can extract several key lessons about decision-making. Successful decisions like Netflix's streaming transition balance multiple factors, including cognitive, economic, and social influences. Data-driven approaches, as demonstrated by American Express, improve decision outcomes. Structured decision processes help prevent failures and guide complex choices. Ethical considerations must remain central to avoid devastating crises. And finally, collaborative approaches leverage diverse perspectives for better decisions. Now that we've explored the factors influencing decision-making, let's discuss practical strategies for making better choices. A comprehensive toolkit can help us navigate complex decisions with greater clarity and confidence. Our toolkit consists of 4 key components: overcoming cognitive biases, managing emotional influences, applying ethical frameworks, and leveraging data-driven approaches. First, let's tackle cognitive biases. Being aware of these thinking traps is the first step to avoiding them. This grid shows some common biases that can cloud our judgment. To overcome these biases, actively seek contradictory evidence, involve diverse perspectives, use structured decision frameworks, and take time for reflection before making important choices. Second, let's address emotional influences. Strong emotions can lead to impulsive decisions or analysis paralysis. To better manage emotions, practice emotional awareness, create distance from the decision when feeling overwhelmed, use the 10-10-10 rule to consider future implications, and schedule important decisions for your optimal thinking time. Third, we need ethical frameworks to guide responsible decision-making. This flowchart provides a structured approach to ethical decisions. For ethical decision-making, consider impacts on all stakeholders, evaluate options against your core values, apply the publicity principle by asking if you'd be comfortable with your decision being widely known, and explore both short and long-term consequences. Finally, a data-driven approach helps us make more objective decisions. This systematic process ensures we use evidence rather than just intuition. The process includes defining clear objectives, gathering relevant data, analyzing patterns, generating alternatives, evaluating options with objective criteria, making the decision, and monitoring outcomes. For the best results, we need an integrated approach that combines all these elements. This 4-phase process: prepare, decide, implement, and review creates a continuous improvement cycle. In the preparation phase, we identify potential biases, manage emotions, consider ethical implications, and gather relevant data. When deciding, we generate multiple alternatives, evaluate them using objective criteria, and incorporate diverse perspectives. During implementation, we communicate decisions clearly, assign responsibilities, and establish checkpoints to monitor progress. Finally, we review outcomes, evaluate our decision-making process, and identify lessons for future decisions. To summarize, good decisions come from a combination of awareness, appropriate tools, and deliberate practice. By actively addressing biases, emotions, ethics, and data needs, you can make more effective choices. Using structured frameworks brings consistency to your decision making, while continuous reflection and learning help you improve over time. By applying these principles, you can become a more effective and responsible decision maker.